So, I understand like a lot of people don't really understand this like Scientology, and they joke about it, or they immediately consider it like evil or like really controversial. So, are there any like more misconceptions of Scientology like held by society today?
So, okay, whether or not they're held is up to each individual person. But
Mm,
you know what I mean. You can because people get misconceptions all the time. It's imagine like okay, HBO releases a doc on Michael Jackson. Like, do you believe
yeah.
that stuff? That's
Mm,
up to anybody, right? You can just go, okay,
yeah.
good. Well, good. There's 10 years worth of trials that said whatever they said and didn't find any wrongdoing, and now two guys who got their trial thrown out of court make a doc, and now everybody's like, oh my gosh, she's a perv.
Yep.
And so you can compile all the data and make your own decision about it. I'm not going to be responsible for what people think about Michael Jackson, just like I'm not going to be responsible for what the people think about Scientology. But that being said, it's I'll say this. So for the last, gosh, what, 50 years or so, there has been an absolutely outrageous amount of money thrown at sliming Scientology. It's been
Hmm.
unbelievable. If you were to catalog all of the hoaxes and planted evidence and made up stories and uh, made up reports given to Interpol and circulated and so on and so forth for the last 50 years, it would be a really entertaining read to catalog all of that. So keeping up with what folks think is sometimes exhausting because there's always somebody else who's like, oh my gosh, you're one of those guys that believes such and such and such, and I'm like, oh God, no, I don't. I don't believe that at all,
Yeah.
and then I have to go and handle it. And so it's for the most part, and this is where that question you'd asked me earlier about are people nasty with you, and it really ends up being online where somebody just where you're never really sure whether you're dealing with a real person. Like, I'm pretty sure you're real because we've been talking for a while.
Hmm. Yeah.
You're a real dude, right? There's some people like
Hmm.
you interact with somebody on Twitter, you don't know if that's a Russian troll, you don't know if he's a bot, you don't know if it's a paid PR firm, or if it really is a 50-year-old Christian mother in North Carolina. You don't
Hmm.
know. So, and all you know is that they're being caustic. And so you got to kind of take a guess and go, all right, is this conversation worth my while, or is this person just really trying to troll me because I have the word Scientology in my Twitter handle? So it's that part can be rough, but it's it's what I've found helps is, I mean, I've had a lot of dealings with the church over the years. I worked for the church actually for a while. I was a staff member in Washington D.C. I ran personnel for a while. So anytime people try to tell me about what happens with personnel or what happens with ethics, there's big fat books that I've gotten through of all the different personnel and ethics policies of the church that I've had to be able to train other people on. So I know how it works. So you're not going to be able to pull the wool over my eyes on that one. I've worked for the church at international levels as well. I've done a lot of work with internet properties for the church because I've spent a while as a sysadmin and so forth. And right now, my sister and my mom are in the Sea organization, so I see them all the time. I get very up to date info of and I get to see them and see them at work and so forth and see how they are. So when somebody says the people who work for the church are blah blah blah, I'm like, in fact, they're not. So it's oh, people in the Sea Org can't visit anybody except
Hmm.
for my sister who just went on a ski trip with me.
Yeah.
You can go, where's your data coming from, bro? So it's interesting, and I know that there's a lot of it there are vested interests involved that have a lot of money, and there are things that the church has done. So one of the things that we don't we're not going to take sides on politics. We're not going to take sides on religious matters. We actually love interfaith affairs and dealing with other churches and so forth, because we find that they're very like-minded. They're just trying to help people get along in life better in their own way. And so we find that we have a lot of points in common. The place where we don't see eye to eye is with forcible drugging of folks, psychiatric drugging, things like that, forced mental hospitals and things like that. We're not down with that, and for obvious reasons. And it's going to be really hard to practice Scientology and help folks out if you say a bad word and then you get thrown in a mental hospital. So obviously we're not down with that. The problem is we have called them out enough times on things like off-label marketing of psychotropic drugs. You know, they make some drug, they say it can do XYZ, and then without getting it approved, they go and start selling it to kids. We're like, no, you can't do that. And the next thing you know, they get a lawsuit, and you can look this up. If you just like Google largest pharmaceutical settlements in history, a lot of those were driven by the church. And some of these are like in the tens of billions of dollars these pharma companies had to pay. So they friggin' hate us. So yeah, there's a lot of money that can get thrown around. I mean, unfortunately for us, $10 billion is like their marketing budget for a quarter. So, and you know, we don't make that kind of money at all. So we can't compete on equal footing on money and ad spend. And you know, they can throw several $1 million at a PR firm just like that, and we can't do that.